All right, veterans, make a single line. We'll dispense with the close interval, dress right dress. And flag wave. All right, detail, fall in. I'd like everyone to face the flag. Detail, attention. Detail, and salute. Order, arm. At this time, I'd like Bob Dempsey to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now have the invocation by Art Sullivan.
At the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
All.
Make sure my face doesn't blow here. It is not very often that a speaker begins with silence. It is uncomfortable. It is forced, and we often know what to do with it. World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars, shook the nations of the world for 4 years, claimed 20 million lives. The armistice was signed the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month. Since the nations commemorate the event with a moment of silence. This day is observed around the world and has many names. Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, and the Day of Peace. It is once celebrated in silence the cannons of World War I, and is now a day when nations around the world pause for a moment of silence and instill pride in remembrance of those heroes who have served, those who are currently serving, and those who died for their country in service. We don't mark this day each year as a commemoration of victory. As we are proud of the victory, we mark this day as a commemoration that we made victory possible. It is a day that we keep our minds to brave men and women of our nation. Generations of them who were above else, brave, fought, and set for their ideals. They choose to serve for a cause that is greater than themselves. Many even of them knew they'd be sent into harm's way. And in this time of present conflict, for the better of the last decades, they have endured tour after tour of demanding distant locations. They have protected us from danger. They have given others the opportunity for a better life. To our veterans, to the fallen, and to their families, there is no tribute, no pride that we can truly match. The magnitude of their service and sacrifice we can only offer in humble moment of silence. Our world is not a silent world. It is not a perfect world either. We just struggle by silence to be still for a moment. Our world struggles from war, strife, injustice, hunger, disease, and destruction. And it cries out in need. Our service members heed that cry. The cries of the world. They do not sit back in silence, but stand against the chaotic world and bring peace. A world of service is anything but peaceful. From the sounds of rejuvenation from blowing of taps, their life is a constant motion. The days are filled with the sounds of drill sergeants' voices, rifles at the training range, children's laughter, their spouses and their friends when they deploy. The days could be filled with other sounds that linger long after the soldier returns. No, a life of a service member is not silent. Their life is busy and noisy, but no one knows the silence like a military family. They know a silence like no other, the silence that remains when their son or daughter goes off to boot camp, or the lingering silence when a father or mother deploys, or the defeating silence when the flag is handed you to a grieving one. Their silence is profound, and it is living testament to their service of their loved ones. Silence today is rare. Like soldiers in the battlefield, we're bombarded from all directions with noise, from people avoiding the emphasis of silence to seeking to fill void and voice around. Some see silence as interaction, but by the silence today, it is silence full of meaning, message, and purpose. Silence, like sleep, has a way of healing our spirits. This silence gives us pause from our hectic lives to remember and to find a healing place and remember the silent soldiers in our past. In this silence, we open our spirits to the feeling of death in our service and sacrifice. And we honor them by silencing our personal cannons and giving them the full measure of respect. We call this a holiday, but for many veterans, it is another day of memories, and it drove them to live their lives each day as best as they possibly can. For our troops, it is another day in harm's way. For our families, it is another day to feel the absence of loved ones, and to the concern of their safety. For our wounded warriors, it is another day of slow and anxious recovery. And those others, it is another day for grief and loss remains fresh. The resilience of our soldiers and their family never fails to amaze me. We are working to help the soldiers and their families who face physical and psychological struggles, multiple deployments, and becomes remaining balanced, healthy, self-confident. There represents America's best. Our Army family is strong, and the Army is seeking to adopt its interests, monetizing the force and building resiliency, maintaining our combat edge as the strongest fighting force the world knows. This is the best way the Army honors those men and women that have sacrificed for our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask for a brief moment of silence to honor the Armistice and Veterans Day.
Okay. Irving Anderson,
George Anderson,
Lawrence Asa,
Richard Bobbitt,
Edward Brand,
Robert Byrd,
Robert Conklin,
William Kadeen,
Donald Denninger,
Al Dominic,
Gary Donahue,
Harry Elias,
John Emery,
Kurt Eschler,
Bernard Franham,
Ronald Gay,
Harold Jones,
Charles Jurgensen,
Bruno Kessler,
Don Madsen,
John McGuire,
Joseph McNeely,
George McNell,
Paul Meberg,
Henry Miller,
John Morris,
Thomas Preston,
Roy Robbins,
James Rochford,
Edward Griner,
Victor Scarpelli,
Maurice Scruggs,
Joseph Sherry,
George Sweet,
Martin Tully,
Arnie Tavita,
Edward Ward,
Warren Wasserman.
John White,
Robert Witt. Deceased members from Woodloch.
In the speech, I was going to ask veterans to stand, but pretty much I think the veterans are already standing. So we'll move on. Family members, friends, please stand with our veterans to show your support for them. As a veteran and a soldier, I know that if I didn't have my wife with me when I left to go to Iraq, and if she wasn't standing there when I came back, it would have been that much harder for me to make it through all the stuff I've done for the country and for the Army. So please give the veterans a round of applause. And I appreciate for having you, having me come and speak to you today. Thanks.
Thank you, Sergeant Dawson. No single military power in history has done greater good, shown greater courage, liberated more people, or upheld higher standards of decency and valor than the armed forces of the United States of America. May God keep us ever grateful for their service. Detail, attention. At this time, Mr. Dick Murphy and Mr. Ron Mazzone will now play Echo Taps. Detail at ease. I would now call on Dick Beyonder and Art Marciano to lead us in singing God Bless America.
God bless America, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains, through the prairies, to the ocean.